Okay, using After Effects, what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the composition window. There's a couple of different ways to get started on the project. One is by importing footage and letting the footage determine the quality of the video. And the other is to determine ahead of time. Sometimes you may create a video or create a composition from scratch. Sometimes you may want to let the quality of the video determine the settings. So let's take a look. So here we are, we're back in After Effects. We're going to click New Composition. That brings up the composition settings, right? I can also come over to the left and click this little composition button. It does the same thing. I can also go up to the top, go to Composition, New Composition. So you can find it in a number of different places. So the composition is part of the overall file. I can have multiple compositions inside of one After Effects document. So we're going to document the other day. I had about 5 compositions inside of one After Effects project, right? So first thing, I can give the project a name. I'll give it the name test. And then what I'm looking at here is the presets. So you'll see that there's a number of different presets. So for instance, if I'm most of the time today, if you're working at standard video, it's going to be HD TV, which is 1080, which is 1920 by 1080, and that's a good standard for most video projects. It's going to set the width and the height to 1920 by 1080. Generally, you're going to just keep it on square pixels unless there's some reason someone will request otherwise. Leave it on square pixels. The frame rate, so 29.97 is considered a video frame rate. Film is 24 frames per second. So if you wanted to have that frame look, that film look, you can shoot at 20. You can edit at 24 frames per second. Next is the start and duration. So the duration is the length of a clip. So one of the things about After Effects is you predetermine how much, what the span of time is. Now you can always increase the span of time. And for instance, in Premiere, you can just keep adding clips onto your timeline and the timeline will keep stretching. Then you kind of predetermine. So I can type anything I want. So right now it's at 5 seconds. I can make it 10 seconds, whatever the case may be. I'm going to set that back to 5 seconds. And then the next is the background color. So the background color is the background of the video. Now, that color is actually transparent. And you can make the color anything you want, but it's probably a good idea, especially at first, to leave it at for black for now. If I wanted to say, let's say I wanted to do something for Instagram where I wanted a perfect square, I could type a 1000 by 1000 pixels, and that would give me a perfect square on the screen. But I want to go back and I want to set it to the HD TV 1080p, and that's a good standard, 29.97, so that's video. And I've made the determination for how I want to set up this composition. When I'm done, I click OK, and I've opened up my composition. And as you can see here, here is my composition window. So let's go over a few things. First, I can look at the time, the preview time button right here and over here, and this is going to give me hours, minutes, seconds, and frames, okay? And on the timeline over here, you'll see that I have a 5-second set of interface here. And you'll see that I have 5 frames, 10 frames, 15 frames, 20 frames, 25 frames, and then I have a second, okay? I have my scrubber, and I can grab that and scrub through my timeline. We'll have video in here later, so you'll see how that works. Then there's the bar up here at the top, the time navigator, and I can drag that to zoom in on the timeline. And I can also use the little bar on the bottom to drag back and forth and control how much time I'm looking at on the timeline. And that timeline is where your motion is going to be created over time. I can also use the plus and minus keys on my keyboard to zoom in and out on my timeline. My timeline window, let's look at the composition window. I can go down here and I can change how I'm looking at the timeline. I'm sorry, how I'm looking at the composition window. I can set it to say 33% or 50% if I'm doing certain projects where, let's say I've got a camera, I've got the camera outside of the project window. I'll need to, the composition window, I may need to zoom out. I can set it to fit, and then if I grab the bar here, I can actually drag it and make the window bigger and smaller. Okay. There's a whole bunch of buttons down here, and we'll learn how to use a lot of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them in the course of creating this film. I can turn on safe titles, action safe. Like for instance, if I'm doing a titling sequence, I want to make sure that my title fits neatly within the action safe area. I can turn on proportional grids. That's good when I'm lining up objects on the screen. I want everything to line up. I don't want to have to use rulers to measure things. I can turn on grids, guides, etc. I'm going to turn all those off. Okay. Next is, I want to show you this button here, which is toggle transparency. And so when I click that, you'll see that I get the gray and white checks. Anytime you see those gray and white checks, what does that mean? That means that you're dealing with transparency. So technically, this video is transparent. And then later on, I'll show you how to create a solid or a layer where you can fill it with a background color, whatever the case may be. Now, this is not the output resolution. This is the resolution I'm working at. When I'm done with my video, I can actually change the output. Okay, I can export to a different output than the output that I'm working at. So that's just another kind of a deep dive into understanding a little bit about the After Effects environment. We're going to be doing some work, some animation real soon.